Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Dr. UUT lectures. In today's discussion, we'll talk about the lymphatic system in detail. Before I commence the lecture, I would love to tell you people that what are the points that are supposed to be discussed with you guys in very simple English. I will try to use very simple vocabulary that everybody understands. So, what will we discuss? First of all, let me tell you that we will talk about the lymphatic system, the lymph capillaries, one direction flow mechanism, primary lymphatic organ, secondary lymphatic organ, the site of the production and the selection of the lymphatic cells, spleen, thymus, tissue fluid, interstitium, functions of the lymph like defensive mechanism, re-entry, and fat absorption. So and etc. So we will discuss so many things with you guys in this particular lecture. So what I need from you guys is the concentration. If you concentrate, you will learn the entire lecture, the entire concept in a very easy way. So just stick with me. So let's start the lecture from the very first point, that is the lymphatic system. This is actually the system of certain types of vessels, just like blood vessels. Okay, so there are certain other vessels in which the fluid of specific type is flowing, which is called as the lymph, which is called as the lymph. So that lymph is actually flowing this particular blood in this particular vessels. So that's why they are called as lymph vessels. And the lymph vessels are actually distributed in your entire body. So the entire lymph vessels group up together and they make the lymphatic system. So what is lymphatic system? Simple. It is the system of lymph vessels. So what is now lymph? It is simply the fluid of certain type, which we will discuss a moment later. So the lymph is actually a fluid. That fluid is moving in the vessels. Those vessels are actually in the entire body. So those vessels make a system. That system is called as lymphatic system. So the very first thing is actually it can also be called as a drainage system. The lymphatic system can be also called as a drainage system. Why? Let's know that. Why? From the heart, the blood is pumped, okay, via arteries. So via these arteries, the blood is actually distributed to the certain organs and tissues. So as it reaches the cells or the tissues, these arteries divide into arterioles and capillaries, the smallest blood vessels, capillaries, okay. So then those capillaries join together they join together, they make the venules and vein, and via which this blood is again then carried by these blood vessels like called as veins towards the heart. So this is the mechanism how the blood is flowing throughout your body, and the connection is actually by mean of the capillaries. So capillaries are both the junction, the point where arteries and veins connect. Okay, so the capillaries are the smallest blood vessels, and these are connecting the arteries and veins. You can say, one can say in short. So what happens now in a day? 20 liter of fluid is actually oozed out. 20 liter of fluid oozes out or moves out from these capillaries to the space between the cells, okay, which is called as interstitium. The space between the cells and the capillaries is called interstitium, okay. So the fluid that moves from the capillaries to the space which is between the cells and the capillaries, in this space, if this fluid reaches, then it is called as the interstitial fluid, or one can also call this as tissue fluid. What? Tissue fluid. Why? Because now this is the fluid is actually surrounding the tissues. Now what is tissue? Simple. The collection of cells is called tissue. You can say the space between the cells and the capillaries, or you can say the space between tissues and the capillaries. So both are same. Why? Because cells collectively can be called as tissues. That's simple. So the space between the tissues and the capillaries is called interstitium. So the fluid that reaches from the capillaries into this particular space, that is known as interstitial fluid or tissue fluid. Now this fluid is actually 20 liter. What? 20 liter. So 20 liter actually moves out. For moving out, we use the word ooze out. Okay, so oozes out. This 20 liter fluid oozes out from the capillaries into the interstitium or tissue fluid, and out of which 20 liters move back and gets into the vein, and remaining is 3 liters. Now this 3 liter fluid is actually in the interstitium. So this 17 liter is moving back towards the heart, okay, via vein. Now this 3 liter which is remaining here, what is going to happen with this? So now the volume of the blood is actually decreased. Why? The fluid, the 3 liter, is enough quantity which has been removed, a kind of removed from the vessels, and which is now present in the interstitium. So we need a system, we need a method by means of which it should be brought back to the blood. So there is a system, there is a method known as lymphatic system, which is bringing this 3 liter fluid back to the blood. How? Very simple. Just concentrate. From here, from the blood, when the fluid oozes to the interstitium or the tissue fluid, so we call that fluid as interstitial fluid or tissue fluid. Now, this fluid will be taken back by means of certain vessels known as lymph vessels. Now, as this fluid reaches these lymph vessels, then the fluid is called as lymph. Okay. First, it was the fluid in the blood vessels, in the capillaries. As it reached to the interstitium or the space between the tissues and the cell and the capillaries, in the tissues. So it was given the name as interstitial fluid or tissue fluid. Okay. Now the name is changing as it moves to the second portion. So now the fluid is moving from the interstitium to the lymph vessel. So it will be called as then lymph. Now it is lymph. Okay. So tissue fluid changed into lymph now. Now this lymph will be flowing, moving upward, and it will come and it will drain. It will be drained into the vein, known as subclavian vein. So by means of which now by means of this particular vein, now the fluid will be poured into the heart. So this is half 17 plus 3 here, it becomes 20. So the 20 is now gained back. The 20 number is gained back. So now in your body, there is 20 liter of the fluid in the particular portion, subclavian vein. So now from here onwards, the 20 liter fluid is moving back to the heart. So the heart is now not going to be damaged. So before, if it was 17 liters, so when the blood, the volume of the blood is actually low, then there are certain complications going to arise. The heart actually judges that, and there are certain other receptors available, so which is a big discussion. Okay, so what is happening then? If the fluid is low, then damage is going to be seen. So the nature has granted us with lymphatic system. Alhamdulillah, we can say. Okay, so this lymphatic system is bringing back that 3 liter fluid and is pouring that 3 liter back into the subclavian vein, which is bringing that fluid back into the heart. So now the heart receives the same 20 liter fluid that a moment earlier it actually pumped into the arteries. So that 20 liter fluid is now again back in the heart now. Now the question rises, what is the reason nature is playing with this? Why there is actually the filtration of the fluid and the reduction of the fluid or the staying of the fluid in the lymph, in the tissue fluid, or in the interstitium? Question is that. So what is the reason behind? The fluid must have gone through this process, and the entire fluid must have entered back and must have entered the heart. So what is the reason hereby? A very simple and very interesting and very conceptual reason hereby. Just concentrate. Now what is that reason? Simple. When the fluid is moving from the blood vessels, from the capillaries into the interstitium, when it becomes interstitial fluid, when it becomes tissue fluid, at that time there is enough contamination in this fluid. Okay, there might be viruses, bacteria, some other germs, some other pathogens. Now those pathogens are supposed to be removed. Veins have got no property to remove this particular pathogen or those particular pathogens. So now, for that, the tissue is supposed to be moved via lymphatic system, via lymph vessels. So now those lymph vessels which are pumping up, okay? Remember, this lymph that will be then forwarded, and while it is flowing, along the way there is actually a kind of portion called as lymph node, where there are certain macrophages available, dendritic cells, T cells, B cells. Now these are actually those particular agents responsible to detoxify, kind of detoxification, to remove all the germs, the pathogens from the fluid. Now a clear and specific fluid, clear fluid free from pathogens, is supposed to be entered into the vein, subclavian vein. So from where now a very fresh, a very energetic, a very immune type. Okay, if there is a kind of uh, pathogen which is not destroyed. So then this particular portion is responsible to generate the antibodies. Why? Because we have here by the B cells, T cells, dendritic cells, macrophages. So some will be killed, and some cells are responsible to generate antibodies against those particular pathogens. So now those antibodies, those cells are actually responsible to get collaboration with the fluid that was actually coming from the this entire procedure, the 70-liter fluid. So now the 20-liter fluid is actually having 3 liter, which is a fresh, which is energetic, which is immune type of fluid. So now this fluid plus 70-liter fluid will be a kind of best type of fluid for the blood vessels, for our body. So now this good blood is going to be given to the heart, then from the heart, it is pumped back. So this cycle continues, okay, all the way along. Now, question rises: one direction flow and pumping up of the interstitial fluid or the tissue fluid. What is this mechanism? Very simple and very interesting mechanism. When you observe the lymphatic vessels, you will see such kind of mechanism, overlapping of the cells. Now, this overlapping has got very interesting job. What? Guess what? So here, when tissue in the tissues, when the fluid concentration increases, that fluid will actually exert a pressure on this particular valve. Okay, consider this is a fluid. That fluid is considering is inserting a pressure on these walls, which are overlapping. So what happens? These are very elastic. So as they exert a pressure, this will then move inward. Now here, this fluid got in space, a gateway to enter into the lymph vessel. So now the fluid will enter. As the fluid enters, this gateway, this overlapping, slowly, gradually starts moving back to its original position. And like this fluid will start generating pressure, and this pressure is responsible actually to move that particular cells valve of the lymph vessels back to the original position. So like this, what happens? The fluid starts accumulating here, and slowly and gradually, in a pulsatile manner, this fluid is actually starts moving towards the vein, and at the end it becomes the part of the vein. So this the remaining 3 liter will become the part of the 17 liter in the vein, called as subclavian vein, and where then collectively 20 liter will be moving back to the heart. Okay, so what lymphatic system is doing is, this particular point is a very confusing point regarding students' point of view, and teachers do commit this mistake while telling their students. I think they forget, they don't commit mistake whatsoever the case is. Forget about that. Simple. The point is, lymphatic system is responsible to bring back the fluid into the blood. Okay, don't say into the heart, into the blood. At the end, it is going to be the part of the into the heart also, but the very first is it is becoming the part of the blood. Okay, so 20-liter fluid in the blood, that is actually provided via subclavian vein from the lymphatic system, from the lymph vessels. So then this particular fluid will start moving into the heart, and then it will be recycled. So this is the mechanism of one direction flow and detoxification or immunity formation. So drainage and immune function, those two important functions are being done now in front of you guys. Drainage and immune function. One another function is that this particular system is also responsible to take or to absorb the fats from the GIT. So that those are actually called as then lacteals. The lymph vessels, lacteals, which are responsible to absorb the fats from the intestine, from the GIT. So that is the third function of the immune system, lymphatic system. Okay, lymphatic system has got three functions: immunity, drainage, and bringing the fats. There are certain other functions. For now, just concentrate. These three. Well, so when you see the particular organism, human body, so we actually group primary and secondary lymphatic organs in the body further. So this was about blood vessels and nodes. Then we have some division of these particular nodes and spots and organs. So primary organs, secondary organs, these two, thymus and bone marrow, they are considered to be the primary organ of the lymphatic system, whereas lymph nodes, spleen, and etc. they're considered to be the secondary lymphatic organ. So now, what is this primary lymphatic organ responsible for? Simple. Thymus and bone marrow. These are responsible to produce the lymphatic cells and give those cells a kind of level of maturity. So cells are produced, then they are matured, and then they are actually given the property of selectivity. Means then the cells are becoming selective. Like cells will then be able to identify that it is my body. So I will not fight against my body. I'm supposed to fight against the foreign body, the pathogen. So this is how selectivity, selection, specification, maturation, production is done in the thymus and the bone marrow. That's why they are called as primary lymphatic organs. Then we have secondary lymphatic organs like the lymphoid node, spleen, etc. Those all nodules and stuff like that, which are present in the entire body, they are actually then grouped in the secondary lymphatic organ, and they are actually responsible to fight, to encounter the pathogens. So here it takes place in the primary production, maturation, and specification of the cells to fight against the foreign particles, not to one own particles. And in the secondary lymphatic organs, uh, our lymphatic system is responsible to fight against the foreign particles. So this is the space, lymph node, spleen, etc. They are given the specific positions in the body where they fight against the germs, the pathogens. So I hope I have discussed the entire points in the lecture. If still there is a kind of point remaining, you can ask us in the comment box and see the description for more. If any point is remaining, I will drop those points in the description.